Well, hello, football fans. The Big D is back as we recap week 7 on the Big D podcast. Before I bring in Alex, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page where uh, it's football season, but I'm up for anything, whether it be NASCAR, football, baseball, UFC, college football. Well, anybody see the Georgia Texas debacle? Also, check out the Big D podcast for your audio listeners, Spotify and Apple. So, joining us, the happiest Miami Dolphin fan that Tua will be back from concussion protocol. It must be and the biggest Shaolin Water fan, Alex.
Hey Dylan. Hey Dylan, thanks for having me back. It's good to be back as always. There's not much to be happy about when it comes to the Miami Dolphins these days, but we finally have something we can at least look forward to and be excited about. Talk a little bit more about that later, but always great to be back talking NFL football with you, Dylan.
Yeah, and by the way, at least one of our teams won yesterday.
Yeah, yeah. Congrats to you guys. It's those London games. It seems like Jacksonville's got a second home in London. It's almost like they've got home field advantage playing over there because you've done it so much. But it didn't start too pretty for you Jacksonville Jaguars, but they definitely finished it off and took control of the New England Patriots, like I kind of thought they should.
Yeah, maybe we have another game against the Patriots sometime later this season.
Yeah. Hey, you got to join the AFC East to be able to play them twice a year.
Oh, come on, man. That's ridiculous. That's a bunch of talk, dude. Have them going the South, playing a real division, not against the Jets.
Hey, we got to go up against Dolphins. Always get screwed. We had to go up against the Patriots for 20 years. Now we got to deal with Josh Allen. It's the AFC East has been it's been a minefield for pretty much my entire life. And unfortunately, we weren't the ones dropping them.
Speaking of the Jets, did anybody see Sunday Night Football? Because the Jets won, and for the first quarter, quarter and a half of the game, it looked good for Gang Green because the Jets were up. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
and
No, I
then
mean,
in a game with two, I would say Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. I mean, first off, a lot of people didn't think Russell Wilson should start, but we know why. I mean, the only two people who thought Russell Wilson should have started were Mike Tomlin and Sierra.
yeah, yeah, and maybe George Pickens because he sure reaped the rewards of that decision as well. But I was right there with a lot of the naysayers. I thought Mike Tomlin was crazy for starting Russell Wilson this week. You're sitting at a 4-2 record. Obviously, Justin Fields hasn't been perfect, but to be able to be sitting at 4-2, especially in that division, I was very surprised to see the decision, but. I guess that's why Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season in his tenure as an NFL coach with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because sometimes you got to make the hard decisions, and this one sure paid off for
Yeah, and after a slow start, which was to be expected because Russ hadn't played an NFL game since what, week 16 or 17 last year. I thought Russ was big. I mean, he made some deep throws. I mean, a couple to Pickens. I mean, one nice throw to Pat Fry move, which I'm sure Steeler fans are used to singing praises of tight ends, whether it be Fry move or Heath Miller.
him.
And I mean, in general, I thought Russ played really well after the shaky start. I mean, threw for 264 and a couple of scores. And the Steel running game, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren doing what they do best. But what the heck is going on with the Jets? I mean, I know you have something to ask me about the Jets.
I mean, I don't know exactly in particular, but is it trouble in paradise? How many more of Aaron Rodgers' best friends do they need to get to turn their ship around?
Apparently more because this Jet team after the first half went largely nowhere. I mean, New York was up. What was it? Thir- the excuse me, 15-13 going into halftime, and by my calculations, uh, yeah, I'm great at math. I can do math in my head. I don't think the Jets scored a point the whole second half last night.
They had the good old goose egg in the second half. Third and fourth quarter, not much luck there. It did seem like obviously, we saw the very first play of the game. Aaron Rodgers was looking for Devontae Adams, and it was a little bit of an off throw. Devontae probably could have caught it, but fell incomplete. But just looking at that first play, it really seemed like they were going to be going to Devontae. Obviously, that leaves Garrett Wilson, with a little bit more space on his side of the ball, because you have to pay attention to a Hall of Fame caliber receiver like Devontae Adams on the other side. And, it seemed early, like you said, that, they were getting things clicking a little bit. Brees Hall wasn't having too much success running the football, but as far as catching passes out of the backfield, he looked electric. And, it really seemed like we were going to have a close football game. And, that second half, Russell Wilson really just kind of turned on the Jets. And, I will say, I mean, those specifically the two deep balls that he completed to George Pickens, man. I mean, props go to George Pickens, because that was as true of a 50-50 ball. Both of them were as true of a 50-50 ball as I've ever seen. And, I think George Pickens is starting to solidify himself as, a very legitimate deep field threat in this NFL, because, he went up and got it. And, I was sitting there thinking that, we might have a Sauce Gardner interception, or, this supposedly stingy Jets secondary was going to come up with a couple of them. And, props to George Pickens for bringing them down, but Russell Wilson put it where it needed to be and gave his receiver the chance to make the play. And, he sure did. But, it's just like like we're saying, it just kind of fell apart for the Jets in the second half.
Yeah, and by the way, how about that one catch where Pickens called it 3 times? It's like doink, doink, doink.
Yeah.
You knew at that point. You knew once Pittsburgh took the lead, the game was over, because the Jets were not only done, they were not going to score a point.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to say.
Aaron Rodgers was definitely a little unlucky. I mean, I think those turnovers were obviously. I mean, anytime you have a turnover in a game, there's a very strong potential for it to swing the momentum. But man, I'll tell you what, Garrett Wilson having that ball hit off his shoulder pads and going straight to the Pittsburgh defensive back for what Beanie's second pick of the day. I mean, I really think that was a nail in the coffin for that team, because that would have been a big play. The Jets also sustained an injury to one of their offensive linemen, on two of them. Yeah. As a direct result of trying to make the tackle on that interception. I mean, who knows? If Garrett Wilson catches that ball, Jets probably don't go on to win that game, but it might have been a little bit closer. I do think that was, I wouldn't say a momentum shifter, because I think Pittsburgh already had the momentum in their favor at that point, but I think it's as close to a nail in the coffin as you can get.
Yeah, and by the way, why is Aaron? By the way, I know the rumors that Garrett Wilson's on the chopping block. Devontae Adams is like what kind of how many receivers does Aaron Rodgers need?
I mean, who knows? We Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson might be getting a phone call this morning after.
Oh gosh! Are they going to bring James Jones out of retirement?
Greg Jennings, why not? Let's just bring the whole gang back together. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's I said in our preseason predictions, I didn't have much faith in the Jets this season. I thought they were going to look better than this. Sitting at 2-5, it's not a good place to be if you're the New York Jets. I mean, you're right next to Miami. Kind of in the middle tier of the NFC East, looking way up at the Buffalo Bills. They have again an in-division game against the Patriots next week. It's going to be a good opportunity for them to bounce back. I think everyone's going to expect the Jets to win that game pretty handedly. But then right after that, they've got to go and play the Houston Texans on Thursday Night Football. So it gives them an opportunity for Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers to gel a little bit more. Obviously they have a great connection already, but it has been a couple years, and you got to get some of the intricacies out of back in the swing of things. But good opportunity for them next week to take on the Patriots, get some of that confidence and momentum back, leading up to a very tough AFC matchup against the Houston Texans.
And by the way, why aren't the New York Jets running the ball more? I mean, isn't Brees Hall like a top 5 back? I mean, they ran the ball. I mean, the Jets ran the ball
15
15, 15 times, and Aaron Rodgers throwing it 39 times. I don't know about you. I don't want a 40-year-old quarterback throwing 40 times and handing the ball 15. I want to be the other way around.
right.
I want to be like Pittsburgh when they're running the ball more than throwing.
Yeah. I mean, with Aaron Rodgers, the type of quarterback he is, it gives me a lot of the same mentality as the Dan Marino days in Miami, where, if I'm this good at throwing the ball, why should we run the ball? Well, the reason why you should be running the ball, Aaron Rodgers, is because you've got a running back like Brees Hall in the backfield. Miami Dolphins, when they had Dan Marino at quarterback, we didn't have a Brees Hall in the backfield to be giving it off to. You're totally right. I mean, 12 carries, 38 yards for Brees Hall. I know he got the touchdown, but it was a very underwhelming day on the ground for Brees Hall. He made up for it for his fantasy owners through the air, but even Braylon Allen, there you go. Even Braylon Allen, I mean, he's a talented back there. He only had 2 rushes for 4 yards. I mean, I know when you're playing behind, it's hard to keep that game script and kind of keep your play calling in a little bit more balance, but you still have to keep the defense honest. I mean, if they know that you're not going to be running the ball, it's so much easier to defend those over the top passes and really make sure you're sticking to Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. If you're not worried about them running the football, so you gotta keep that defense honest. I mean, Brees Hall is one of the most electric running backs in the NFL, and to only give him 12 carries, when he was still looking like an electric part of the offense, it's unfortunate to say the least if you're a New York Jets fan.
Yeah, and by the way, what happened to all that motion from last Monday night against the Bills? I didn't see any of that motion last night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they were trying to, potentially simplify the game script because they brought Devontae Adams in.
It sure seems like Aaron Rodgers doesn't like motion. I don't know. That's what I saw.
Yeah. I mean, they did get burnt for a couple illegal shift penalties against the Bills last week.
Who
So
hasn't been burned by illegal shift penalties this
I
year?
know my Dolphins have for sure, but I think the New York Jets were a little too excited about the Devontae Adams thing, reunion with Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think they spent enough time really focusing on this Pittsburgh Steelers team, because I know the Steelers have a great roster. They've got a lot of talent on both sides of the football, but the New York Jets had enough talent to win that game yesterday, and I don't think they came to play. But let's move on. I'm sorry. Let's move on to the next game we're going to talk about in this episode. Dylan swears he knows which game I'm going to bring up, so we'll see if that's true or not. But we are going to be talking Super Bowl rematch. The San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs played off yesterday, and I just have to ask you, Dylan, what will it take for Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers to get over this Kansas City Chiefs hump? I mean, we have seen countless time and time and time. That they are spending every second of prep week leading up to this football game preparing for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and it doesn't seem to do any justice. I know that they have injuries on the offensive side of the ball, but Kansas City is one of the teams you can say that about the most. So what did you see from San Francisco? How bad do you think the state of the 49ers is? And, is there any chance that the 49ers have any hope of beating the Chiefs anytime soon?
The San Francisco 49ers are not going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs for as long as Patrick Mahomes is under center. Because Brock Purdy's not winning any Super Bowls. Kyle Shanahan's not winning Super Bowls. They're fine. Kyle Shanahan's a good coach. Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. Andy Reid's the best coach in the NFL right now. I mean, both teams were missing studs. I mean, the Chiefs playing without Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco, and Juju. The Niners are playing without Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, and Christian McCaffrey. And yet the Chiefs made the big plays. I mean, Mahomes, whether running or throwing made plays. I mean, it doesn't matter. Offensive line not great. Running game. Travis Kelce hanging out with a woman who shall not be named on this show today. But it doesn't matter. But Brock Purdy's regressed. Kyle Shanahan's a good coach. He's not a top level coach. And the days of San Francisco winning NFC championships or contending for Super Bowls ended. It ended with the Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs in Vegas. And I said before the year, the 49ers would not make the playoffs.
You did.
Based on that game last night, the 49ers are not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely at the bottom looking up, sitting there at 3-4. I mean, this was a great chance to at least show that you could be competitive. I mean, I don't think a lot of people expected the 49ers to beat the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday. I think we expected a good football game. And honestly, I think the score was closer than the game really was. I mean, Brock Purdy with his 3 interceptions, everyone knows you got to win the turnover battle, unless bearing some unforeseen circumstances. You got to win the turnover battle to win football games. And throwing 3 interceptions against going up against Patrick Mahomes, giving Patrick Mahomes 3 free possessions is not an effective strategy to win football games.
And just to make things even worse for the Niners, I mean, what happened with Brandon Ayuk yesterday? I mean, dropped the pass, and then by the way, news breaking: Brandon Ayuk done for the year.
Yeah, season-ending knee injury. I think officially diagnosed with a torn ACL. I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, obviously Deebo Samuel had some issues yesterday. I think it was an illness where we didn't really see him. And everyone knows about the Christian McCaffrey situation. It does seem to be a good bit of bad luck for the 49ers, but one way or another, you got to have that next man up mentality, and you got to be able to overcome adversity, as Mike McDaniel loves to say, and step up to the challenge. And the 49ers just aren't doing that right now.
By the way, do you know who leads the NFL? By the way, you know who? I know we talk about MVPs, and it's way too early to figure out who's going to win MVP right now. One word. Who's your MVP frontrunner right now?
I mean, as far as true value to his team, I think Patrick Mahomes, as long as he's in the NFL, will be the most valuable player in the league. I don't think he's deserving of the award this year, just because I almost have to say, it's tough, man. I mean, I think CJ Stroud deserves a shout. What Jared Goff is doing in Detroit is some magical work over there. I mean, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield is even playing great football right now. I mean, there's a lot of names in contention. Obviously, Lamar is playing well. I'm curious, Dylan. I know you've got someone in mind. I got to know who you're thinking.
What the heck have you been drinking? I mean, Patrick Mahomes is throwing more picks than touchdowns this year.
That's why I didn't say he should be MVP. I said he is the most valuable player to his franchise, which is what the award technically stands for. I said he should not win the award, but as far as truest value to his franchise, no one means more to an NFL team than Patrick Mahomes does to the Kansas City Chiefs. And then as far as the award goes, guys like CJ Stroud, guys like, even Jared Goff, and whoever you're about to say who's probably going to end up winning it anyway.
I'll tell you who the front runner for MVP right now is. He's accounting for 15 touchdowns and 0 interceptions.
Drum roll, please.
Josh Allen.
Yeah. I hate giving Josh Allen credit, but
so what? He's going to kick your butt in week 9.
Yeah, you already did it once this year.
Same to us.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Josh Allen probably deserves his flowers. He's been doing it long enough without necessarily getting the recognition I think he probably deserves. And the one thing that you really said is the 0 interceptions on the season. I mean, that was the biggest knock for Josh Allen for everyone, I think, is, It seems like he was due for one pick every single week, and he has proven that he can take care of the football. Obviously, he's still got his rushing ability. Injuries may he's got to be careful, not to pick up any of those extra injuries. I know he was banged up, for the last couple of weeks, but as far as taking care of the football, and winning football games, there's no one else really other than Patrick Mahomes you want in the NFL other than Josh Allen.
Yeah, and we're going to see Mahomes and Josh Allen week 11.
Yeah. Now, as far as Patrick Mahomes goes and the Chiefs go, I know we're gonna move over to the next segment here shortly. But I'm just curious, Dylan, are you concerned with the number of picks that Mahomes is throwing? I mean, we saw Josh Allen succeed throwing picks for the last couple of years, but he's still leading his team. They're obviously undefeated still throughout this point of the year. It can't be too big of a concern, right?
Zero concern with Pat Mahomes is throwing picks. You know why? Because sometimes aggressiveness wins in the NFL. I mean, Jordan Love threw picks. Matthew Stafford's throwing picks. Josh Allen's throwing picks. I don't care if you throw a pick here and there.
Yeah. It's just crazy to me to see, 16 at 27, 150 yards, 0 touchdown, 2 picks. And, that's the winning quarterback for the day. But, Patrick Mahomes goes way beyond the stat line and what he does for that team, breaking his individual longest rush of his career with that toe tap 33-yard run down the sideline was a pretty special sight to see as well. But let's move on, Dylan. I know there was a lot of different plays throughout the NFL this week, but there was one in particular that you have labeled as your dummy play of the week, and I can't wait to hear about it. Let me know, Dylan. What do you got? What do you got to tell the people?
Well, we saw week 1, Antonio Pierce punt 4th and 1 from the 41-yard line. This might not be as dumb, but LA was up 20-12 late in the fourth quarter. I think it was like 4th and 9, 4th and 10, or 4th and goal from like the 9 or 10-yard line, down 8, and the Raiders kick a field goal. And I'm like, why are the Raiders kicking a field goal down 8? Because guess what happens if you're down 5 compared to 8?
Still need a touchdown.
Thank you. And yet the Raiders kick a field goal. And then guess what happened when they got the ball back? Gardner Minshew threw a pass to somebody wearing a Ram helmet.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 4th and goal even. It's not even like you're at like 4th and 20 from, the 45 where, you almost feel like, it's easier to kick a field goal and get an onside kick than to convert that 4th down. I mean, I don't understand. Just throw it up to Brock Bowers at that point. I mean, you've got probably the best tight end in football right now. You got to let your team make a play.
Yeah. At Wolves, the other team, the Rams might get the ball in the 9-yard line, 3 and out. You get the ball in midfield.
Exactly. I mean, they had 3 timeouts at the time. I guess that's probably the reasoning why he went for but still, I mean, even still, like you said, I mean, the only thing I can think is, you kick the field goal, you go down 5, you have your 3 timeouts. If you stop the Rams, then a touchdown wins the game, as opposed to going for it on 4th down, not getting it, stopping the Rams, and then the touchdown, the 2 points still ties it. That's the only explanation I can think, is that they were just banking that they were going to get the ball back, and they'd rather need a touchdown to win as opposed to having a touchdown to tie. But you don't even put yourself in that situation if you tie the football game right there.
Yeah, and what did Herman Edwards used to say?
You play to win the game.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Speaking of winning, that's unfortunately what your Dolphins didn't do yesterday, as Miami ran through 15 more quarterbacks and lost to the Colts 16-10 yesterday. And I know you are stewing based on what your receivers failed to do.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, Dylan. When every Miami Dolphins fan knows that the Dolphins did not address the backup quarterback situation appropriately. I don't know if Chris Greer was under false pretenses, knowing that Tua played every game last season, and he just felt like the concussion problems and the injury problems were in the past. But when you have this type of offense, you have to have a contingency plan. And Chris Greer and the Miami Dolphins did not give themselves a contingency plan, and that is the reason why we're sitting at 2-4 today. Tyler Huntley, that's a mid-season acquisition, a guy we didn't even have on the roster a month and a half ago. Tim Bleuel, who I don't know if you need to be reminded about this, but threw 1 touchdown in his collegiate career as opposed to 13 interceptions. I don't even know how he made an NFL roster. Skylar Thompson looked like a fish out of water, and his limited plays before our offensive line almost got him killed. Not having a backup quarterback is a huge problem for this Miami Dolphins team. But what I think is an even bigger problem is the fact that we are not manufacturing ways to get our star players the football. I understand having guys who would be third strings on the majority of the teams in the NFL as your starting quarterback going into a week as a problem. Yes, that is a problem. However, when you have a guy by the name of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on your roster, and going into the fourth quarter, they have combined for 1 target, you have to start looking at the play calling. I don't care if you're giving them bubble screens every other drive. I don't care if you're putting them on a slant and no man's land going across the field. You gotta give these guys a chance to make plays. It just doesn't.
Why not a reverse?
I mean, Tyreek Hill had 1 carry for 5 yards. I mean, it's 5 yards. You do that every single play. You march right down the field. I mean, I understand that the defenses are locking in on these guys, but you have to get creative. And Mike McDaniel is known for being one of the most creative offensive scheme developers in the NFL. I mean, I just listen to this. This is sickening for me to even say. These are the names of Miami Dolphins players who received the same or more targets than Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle yesterday. Odell Beckham had the same number of targets as Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Julian Hill had the same number of targets as either Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill had 2 targets yesterday each. Odell Beckham had 2. Julian Hill had 2. Devon Achane had 3. He should have had more. Malik Washington had 3. So we threw the ball to Malik Washington more times than we did either Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle.
Jonnu Smith.
Jonnu Smith had 7, which I've been waiting for Jonnu Smith. I think we should be doing that with Jonnu Smith every week, in addition to getting the ball to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. But Alec Ingold had the 1 for 25 yards. That's another side of the thing. I understand giving the ball to your fullback on 3rd and 4th and 1s in must-have situations, but we're handing the ball off to our fullback on 1st and 10, and then turning the ball over near, on the defensive side of the ball. It's just, there's so many head-scratching decisions that I've seen from Mike McDaniel this season. Last year, his troubles were getting the plays in and not having enough time to get our motions ready and getting the play in on time and taking too many delayed game penalties. Now we're having illegal shifts where the entire Dolphins offense is built around motion. We can't even motion correctly. And when we do, we're throwing to Alec Ingold, Malik Washington, and Julian Hill and Odell Beckham Jr. It blows my mind how we're not manufacturing plays for these guys. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. It can be a throw that Tyler Huntley can make. It doesn't have to be some crazy back shoulder, wheel route where they're thrown to the opposite side of the field. Give them a go route. Give them a fade. Just give them the opportunity to change games like they had the ability to do, and like we saw them do all last season and all the season before. I mean, it's just inexcusable having those 2 weapons, 4 total targets and 2 total catches. It blows my mind. I mean, Devon Achane had a good day. We ran the ball well, which is something I like to see. Our defense played great, which is something I want to see. We just have to translate that to getting our stars involved. And I don't know if it's just, Tua's precision, timing, and ability to read the field that we're lacking. I mean, it sure looks like it. I'm praying that when he comes back next week, we're going to see a little bit more of the Miami Dolphins offense we saw last season. But at the time being, I have very little to be optimistic about.
Yeah, and you know what? Mike McDaniel's on the chopping block because Dolphins fans are not going to put up with 2-4, especially with all these clock issues, all these motion penalties.
You know, I can't say he's on the hot seat yet. We just gave him an extension. Mike McDaniel has given the Miami Dolphins fans the most electric offense they've seen since.
I don't know. I don't know. The Dolphins seem to run through coaches every 3 years, and this is Mike McDaniel's third year.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to put significant blame on losing Tua Tagovailoa. Like, I understand that we have been putrid since Tua's left, and that is on Mike McDaniel. However, you can't fire a head coach for losing football games without a starting quarterback. In my opinion, I mean, we'll see what happens next week moving forward. It's going to be very interesting to see what this Miami Dolphins offense looks like with Tua back under center. He says he's been he says he's been symptom free since practically the day after the game. He's been throwing for 5 weeks. He should be in shape. He should be prepared, and he should be able to slide right back into this offense and turn it into what we know this offense can be. If that doesn't happen, then that's when you start asking questions. But where we stand now, I don't have Mike McDaniel on the chopping block. I don't even think his seat is hot. Now, when Tua comes back, if we still see these problems, that's a different conversation.
Okay, and last but certainly not least, how about a guillotine recap? And for everybody wondering, what is the guillotine league? Well, that's where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated every week. So it doesn't matter if you're first, except for the last week, but don't be last. Otherwise, you're in trouble.
Just to give a little bit more context, we're in a 14-person league. As Dylan said, whoever scores, there's no head-to-head matchups. Whoever scores the least amount of points per given week, their team is eliminated. Every player on that team goes to the waiver list, and we have a free agency budget of $100 that you're able to bid on those free agents. Once you use up your money's gone. You can still play waivers as usual, but you are limited to if anyone bids $1 and you don't have anything left, then you're not going to get that guy. So, Dylan and I were, through week 7, we both have successfully survived this week, and we're moving on to week 8. And
Sure. Sure. Do you want to show your team first?
Sure, let's do it.
And he waddled away. You could guess who that is.
So I'm sitting at 83.7 points on the week. I am already above the team who has the lowest amount of points. They do not have any players playing.
By the way,
tonight.
you made the cardinal error in fantasy football. You had your flex play on Sunday instead of Monday.
Yeah, I know I did. I noticed that, but I didn't. I knew once Brian Robinson. I wasn't worried about James Conner's availability. I was worried about Brian Robinson's availability. And once I saw he was good, I figured you're right. I definitely made a mistake there, but I'm sitting at 83.7. I think the lowest team of the season, or the lowest team of the week, is already at 71 with everyone played. So I'm safe to go here. I mean, this team is. I'm pretty happy with it. Chuba Hubbard was a player I spent some money on. James Conner I spent some money on. Terry McLaurin I bought last week, but
you took him from me.
Hey, once you show the viewers your team, Dylan, I think people will be okay with me getting Terry McLaurin, and I'm doing all that with Rashid Shaheed and Isaiah Pacheco on IR. So I'm not too upset about where I'm standing, but. This team, Dylan, go ahead.
Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Marvin, Saquon, Kenneth Walker, Trey McBride, Kieran Williams, Justin Tucker, and the Jet defense.
Yeah, I mean that is a stacked fantasy football team, if you ask me. You were a little worried going into the week. I told you had nothing to worry about. Being able to have those. I mean, you've got 3 of some of the best fantasy football running backs in fantasy football right now. And
by the way, tell him how I picked up all those running backs.
Dylan was smart. He saved his money. I think it was last week. We were doing our waiver claims on Tuesday, or no, it would have been Tuesday. And I happened to look at the leaderboard that shows who has the remaining budget. Remember, everyone starts with $100. Dylan had $95 left in his budget, whereas a lot of teams had already ran through their entire budget. I was sitting right around 53, and I had the second most at 53. Everyone else was below 50. So, Dylan saved his money. He drafted well, and he was able to make some pretty solid acquisitions last week to really boost that team.
And by the way, I also added Kieran Williams, like not this past Saturday night, but the week before. And you're like, and what did you say?
I couldn't believe he was available. He was on a bye week, and for whatever reason, everyone missed that he wasn't on a team. And I don't know how it happened that I guess what must have happened is the team who had him, who got eliminated, Kieran Williams must have had a bye week, so he wasn't listed on the projected rankings for the week, and it slipped through the cracks, and Dylan grabbed him, and I got the Yahoo Sports notification that um, Dylan added Kieran Williams from free agency. I'm like, wait a second, Dylan, how did that even happen?
Mr. Sneaky.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. When did I get him? Philadelphia. Jameer Gibbs. Oh, there's Justin Tucker.
Yeah.
There's
So that's when he was dropped.
Kieran Williams.
I think I might have seen him. Yeah, it'll be on this.
No, it would have been.
There it is. I just saw it. Yep. Added as a free agent. And I had already added someone earlier I had added Zach Moss hours before when Kieran Williams was available. All that. I didn't even realize that. Oh man.
I do my best work at 11:56 at night.
Apparently. I mean, you sure got away with robbery on that one.
Yeah, I gotta work. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you with more content. I've got more streams, episodes coming later in the week.
Thanks for having me, Dylan. Pleasure as always. And fins up, baby.